Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sweetcast. I'm Clint, and we've got Artemis here in the chat. And we're going to be talking about artists versus writers because this has been something that's come up a lot. But so, how are you doing, Artemis?
I'm doing good. Just woken up.
Awesome. Well, that's great. It's good to have you here. You're coming in from China. So what time of day is it for you right now?
9:30 a.m.
Okay. Not too bad. It could definitely be worse. But it's midweek, so I don't know. Maybe that is bad. I don't know. Guess we'll see how it goes. So, cool. Well, I invited several other friends, and we'll see who pops in. And in the meantime, we'll get warmed up here. We've got 10 people watching. I'm going to be asking just for people as you're coming in. We're going to be talking writers and artists. And I know I've done a stream in the past and we talked about portfolio reviews and specific things that artists can do to get work. Now we're going to look from sort of the other end. We'll talk a little bit about both, but sort of the other end, just because I've seen this show up on Twitter lately and YouTube and things like that. So we'll bring it in. Scott, welcome. Don Man, Tinfoil Hat Man. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Scott says writers must maintain their tight dominance over those dogger artists. Oh, I feel bad even saying that. Yeah, I know he's totally joking. Hey, Scott, I dropped a link too. So if you're interested in hopping in, you have been invited. And I did invite some artists, but the thing is, artists are really busy, it seems like, so they don't come in all that often. But I know we have artists that watch. So if you are an artist in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. This will be good. Hey, Scott, welcome. Glad you could pop in. How's it going?
Hey, brother, it's going good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sound good. Scotty Richard Studio says, I'm trying to do both. Mike Murphy's here too. Awesome. Welcome, guys. Yeah, trying to do both. I would love to do both. I would love to do an entire book and write it and draw it myself. And I don't know. I just feel like that would be awesome. But
dude, that's the dream. That's the dream, to be able to do it both.
Yeah, wouldn't that be sweet? You would save. I don't know. You could make more money. Assuming that you can draw at a professional level. That's the kicker.
See, that's the problem with you, Clint. Deep down inside, you're just a base capitalist, and it's all you ever been.
Yeah, I have to say I am. Giga Death comic book says, "Hey, sweet cat and chatters, hello, welcome." Eric Breen is here. He's always got the best comments in the comment section. Back down, cats. About half an hour ago, hadn't heard about it until now. Thanks, Eric. I know that's a joke because I talk about it nonstop almost. Cool. Consumers are also really welcome here. So thank you, Don, man. All right. So question for the both of you. Both of you are writers. You've worked with artists. I know something that bothers artists a lot is the question of, do you want to collaborate on a project, because that is code word for work for free until we make a profit. Have either of you actually worked in a no upfront money kind of situation with an artist?
So I have my first comic work was can you?
Oh, sorry, you kind of cut out. Your first book, what?
Yeah, so my first comic work was a short that, you know, I met. Let me back up just a little bit more. Back in the late '90s, I met an artist at San Diego Comic-Con. We met through the internet, and then we met on San Diego Comic-Con, and we decided we were going to work together on something because we both wanted to break in. You know, you got to have that artist-writer team, and so we did some collaborative stuff, and I mean, it worked really well.
It worked really, very cool. When you so how did it work? Did you make a profit after the project?
Oh, absolutely not. There was no profit to be made for either of us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the problem. And I guess like there's so okay, I've heard actually Sean Gordon Murphy said on Twitter, somebody had posted that uh, they they had problems with writers and artists or something, like there was some kind of conflict going on. And yeah, sorry, I'm a little distracted. Artemis, I'm gonna mute you, or just like unmute yourself when you have something to say. Perfect, thank you.
I was just, that's why I stopped talking. I didn't know if I was talking over him earlier.
No, you're good. He did say
busy breaking into things.
Yeah, there would be people and stuff in the background, so it's all good. Okay, so yeah, someone posed the question on Twitter: what are some things that advice from writers for artists? So things that artists need to do. And Sean Gordon Murphy actually responded because I think he's primarily an artist, but he has written and he's done some professional level writing. And so he said that artists complain too much about not getting invited to, I can't even remember what they are. Something for professionals. And so it got me thinking, I think there's a difference between professional writers and artists and how they work together versus indie, and then also possibly even versus just breaking into comics in the first place. I gotta believe there are differences, and a big difference there is money. So when you're just breaking in, working for free, it makes sense. For a writer, certainly it makes sense, and for an artist, I think it can also make sense, especially if it's your first job. It seems like something you might have to do. So with your artist, Scott, how did you talk him into doing a collaboration with you?
Well, I think it helps that you're both serious. I mean, I think you have to you may not be a pro yet, but you have to have a professional mindset, and you have to also be serious about what you want. And so the thing that was really worked out for both of us is we both had the same goal. We weren't trying to create some kind of collaborative indie comic, and we didn't have any money. It was like, all right, we need to get work at Image, and we were trying to break into Image. And I had made some connections inside the company, both writers and editorial and some of the kind of support staff. So I was like on the right track, but it's hard, especially as a writer. And so I said, the guy's name was Colin Fidgel. He was a great Canadian artist. I think he's given it up like over the last 15 years or so. So he's not an artist really anymore, but he was right there. He was ready to go as a pro artist. And so he was doing the serious portfolio reviews at San Diego and things like that. And things were working well for him, but he just could never get that break. And so he and I both kind of said, hey, why don't we put together a story? And so as a writer, I can't be like, hey, this is my idea. Let's both collaborate on it. No, the idea was our objective. We figured out what the objective was, and that was to get hired by Image, and we could do it better if we got. So we were trying to get a backup story. So you remember back when they used to do like 8-page backup stories and some of the,
Oh, yeah.
So we were trying to get one of those. So I said, listen, I can write any character that Image, any character. And so he said, well, let's do some Wildstorm. And so we ended up doing a Wildstorm backup. And he picked the characters because I wanted him to do something that would, show his style off the best. And so he gave me, hey, let's do these two characters. And I said, all right. And we did them, and we did the story together. He said, come up with a story, let me know what it is. I gave him the rough pitch. He liked it. And so I turned it into a 8-page script, and off to the races we went. And then, but my instructions to him were the same as my instructions to my artist working on Door Kickers. This is my script, but if you can think of a way to do it better that preserves the integrity of the story, do it. And if you've got a wazoo idea that you think will still work, that we need to work things around to make it work, give me that too, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
You can't feel too much ownership of the story as a writer if you truly want to collaborate. And I think the artists that encounter that, they understand it and they'll appreciate that.
Yeah. Artemis, how about you? Have you done any like unpaid collaborations with artists, or have they all been paid? What's sort of your outlook on that?
Most of the time they're paid. Maybe we'll do some SketchUps first before I start drawing. But I usually pay them.
Yeah.
Usually.
Cool. Yeah, for me, I've had, I had really only one collaboration that was unpaid. And the problem was the book never got finished. I kind of started another one and the book never even got started. So there definitely was a problem there. And that was, it's definitely a lot of work for no money, depending on the length of the story. I think an 8-page pitch to image is something different. And that's something that artists could probably commit to, as opposed to, a 52-page comic book and then hoping for back-end profits. So yeah, those are very different things. So that's sort of at a ground level, breaking into comics kind of thing. Then you have indie level comics where you're actually getting books published, and however you're doing that, if you're doing a crowdfunding, if you've got a small publisher, whatever it is, that's sort of a different level, I would say. I just want to remind everyone in the chat, I'm going to try and keep an eye on you guys, but if you have something you'd like me to read, do it at Sweetcast. That's the way I don't forget to read it. Mike Murphy has something here. He says, if you can't pay an artist in cash, you have to offer them partial ownership. In my eyes, at least, it wouldn't feel right otherwise. Yeah, definitely. You just straight up free labor is, it's that, I don't know. I wouldn't even dare. So I'll give you just a little bit of insight into Downcast working with Nacho. I paid him a page rate, but I also offered him back end, like a royalty rate, and sharing the intellectual property. And I realize that it always sounds silly because a lot of writers, and I've heard this from artists before, the promise of back end profits, but I can tell you Nacho's actually pretty happy because Downcast is doing quite well. So it's probably a first for him, I would imagine. So I found this article. I'm going to share this real quick. And actually, before we dive into the article, I do want to let you know too that Necromancer, so that's why Artemis is here primarily. So we're going to look at that book real quick, and then we'll dive into this article about Clients from Hell and go from there. So let me share my screen here real quick. We are sharing, and this is Necromancer. The link is in the description below. Do you mind giving us the elevator pitch for this?
Yes. Necromancer is a science fantasy setting, the virtual realities and haunted graves, where a necromancer by the name of Gregor Mortem must solve a murder mystery.
Very cool. And I'm going to lock this. Well, I guess I'm talking now, but let me just lock it on me so everyone can see it. I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. So I do like the idea of mixing science and fantasy. It always seems like that's, people their minds have a hard time wrapping it around that, but it actually makes a lot of sense to me because there are unexplained elements in science, and I don't know, it's kind of fun to mix them. So you get a $4 tier for digital. This is the book, $8. Wow, that's really affordable. How long is this thing?
It's a 24-pager.
24-page. All right, very cool. Physical copy B. So this is the variant cover. Are these the covers that we're looking at here?
Yep.
Very cool. 2 physical copies, $16 and $100. Your name here. And so get your name etched into one of the tombstones in the background of the comic book. Wow, that's really cool. Very cool. Yeah, so yeah, everyone remember that's why Artemis is here. And yeah, the link's in the description below. And then, of course, don't forget about Downcast. We're at 17,332. And I'd love to get to 500 backers by the end of the week. That'd be totally doable. It'd be awesome. So yeah, don't forget that that is there as well. All right, clients from hell. So this one actually came from, I think that there are a variety of clients here. They're not all just art clients, but you'll run across, like, for example, we'll read this first one here. Client, I want you to create an online gambling site where the players could win cars and real estate betting only a small sum. Okay, just to double check, do you have all the legal licenses to run a gambling site? Client says, no, it would only look like a gambling site, but they would never win. So that would not require a license. Oh, hard to pass. So this is web design, but this is also, to me, it's asking something that is just ridiculous of an artist. I'm curious. I'm going to stop sharing because we can read this and talk about it at the same time, but I do want to see what is going on with the chat. Yeah, so I find that interesting. So artists in the chat, please do chime in if you've had anything that's just the ask was way too big. And I'm going to read some of these really quick. Robert says, Hell Sweet Cast, Arinos, so good to see Tugs, father-daughter comic outselling 40 Pro Deadbeats. Yeah, he's great. His campaign just passed mine a little bit earlier today, so that was really cool. I don't know where he's at now, but last I checked, he was a couple $100 above Downcast. So we need to catch up. Scotty Richard Studio says, what do you think about artists using classic literature as the story and do their interpretations? Also, there are many good short stories from the pulp mag era that are public domain. Yeah, I think that's a great idea if you're an artist and you're not really interested in working with a writer. Adapting something that already exists and using your art, that's a great way to just build your portfolio. I know for me, if I'm hiring an artist, I absolutely want to see sequential pages, especially because I'm paying, like I will not pay for an artist that does not already have sequential pages under their belt. It doesn't really make sense to me. So at some point, the artist is going to have to do some work for free or something, some way to get sequential pages if that's what they want to do. Even Von Skyver says, what do you think of the hashtag sweet signal on a scale of 1 to 10? I give it a 10. I've seen you dropping that around in different chats, and yeah, I like it. I like the lollipop. Very cool.
Hey, Tinfoil Hat just joined the mailing list. Woohoo.
All right. And that's right, because Scott has got his book coming out too. So that mailing list is crucial. Very cool. So guys, have you ever asked an artist to do something that was beyond their ability, or they had to sort of set you straight? Have you ever, either of you had that kind of experience?
Well, I mean, no, honestly, I haven't.
Yeah. I think I've had artists that they told me they could do it. But when I saw it, I'm like, that doesn't count. Like it's not going to work for me. But it's not like they set me straight. I don't know. My expectations did not meet the reality, I guess, of what they were capable of. But that's the big difference when you start paying. When you pay artists, it does make a difference.
Well, but I think the thing about if you come up with an idea as a writer, you're like, okay, I want to make this comic, like we have done with our comics, okay, now I need to find an artist to draw my idea, right? Now you want to give him some leeway with designs and things like that, but still, we're talking about the margins there is what they get to play with. They don't play with the core of the story for the most part. So we as creators, we have to, honestly evaluate the artist that we choose to partner with. Now, that's not, when I say partner, I don't mean like, oh, we're going 50-50 on this. I mean, we're a partner in the story, but make no mistakes about it. you're an employee and I'm hiring you.
Yeah.
Because you're, like for Door Kickers, for instance, very much like you would Downcast. I mean, I'm the publisher as well as the writer.
Right.
I'm not introducing myself as the publisher of Door Kickers or the creator of Door Kickers, though I think I do have creator of Door Kickers in some of my descriptions. I'm saying, hey, I'm the writer of Door Kickers, but as the publisher, I have to take my artist hat off and put my businessman hat on, and I have to do a good evaluation of the talent that I choose to associate myself with professionally.
Yeah.
And if I overlook art kind of keys, in favor of, wow, his page rate's really low, that's awesome. I'm thinking with my, I'm getting a discount. And then all of a sudden he starts turning in art that's not up to snuff. Let's say he's making his deadlines, but the tech isn't good, or the figures don't, he has some anatomy problems, or there's some, fundamental perspective issues and things, things like that that really take you out of the story. I mean, that's our fault. We put him in a position to where he's now doing something that he's not capable of doing.
Yeah. And this is like okay. So I was explaining the difference between breaking in the comics, indie, and professionals that work for large publishers. I hear often that artists want more creative input on stories. I've heard that a lot. I've heard Ethan Van Sciver say that. I've heard, lots of times I've heard artists say that. So as a writer, I want to give them creative freedom. At the same time, it's tough because if you're not professional, if you don't have a publisher that's taking care of those things and paying everybody, then it's sort of just become custom. It's become reality that the writer rather is the publisher, is financing it, is producing it, everything, writing it, everything. And that's a reality. Like personally, I think all three of us, we've accepted that reality, and that's why we're making books. But it is definitely, it's hard because you have more responsibility besides just the creative aspect. There's also the business end. And Angram is in the chat, and I know Angram is an artist. So if you have feedback for us, we're trying to look at how writers can be better clients for artists, because that only helps to be a good client. But it's definitely a trick balancing all that. So yeah, Giga Death says Anagram is a great artist as well. Yep. Experience. Scotty Richard City says, my experience with writers is they want to cram Lord of the Rings into a 24-page book. Yeah. And that's a writing problem. I'm glad you brought that up. That's definitely a writing problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where writers have to do a lot of things. Like I heard George R. R. Martin describe, there's two types of writers. There's the architects, and then there's the gardeners, right? Well, a lot of us, we have a little bit of both of us. The architect plans everything out. The gardener just kind of goes along. Well, I think most inexperienced writers tend to be more gardeners, in that we've got an idea, we start to write it, and all of a sudden we've packed in, we're trying to pack in an epic into, like you said, a 22-page comic script, and you just can't do that. I mean,
yeah,
that's why I tried to start small. This is basically just a mystery. We're not getting to the Great Crusade yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, you got to. It's like you got to. I don't know. It's a whole other thing to consider, because you got to prove yourself. You're not even committed. Like I think I'd love to know I have a 6-issue miniseries, planned, and I'm going to do the 6 issues no matter what sales are like. But the truth is that's not how it works. So it's like you have to shine on your first issue. And for me, it's not making it huge, long, and epic. It's giving people a nice story in a short amount of time to make it work.
Well, that's where I think you have to bring, so writing, like anything, is tempered by maturity. A lot of times you got a lot of passion as a young man, but as you get older, you realize, well, you got to be, more circumspect about things. And I think that a good example, so like what I'm doing with Door Kickers, right? Like the first story doesn't even get into the characterization really. I mean, there's some character beats in there. There's a little bit of world building, but really it's an action story, They kick in the door on the first page and they've defeated the bad guy, and they're leaving, but they're licking their wounds on the last page. So it's a self-contained story. There's, like I said, there's some of those opportunities to kind of get a peek into what I have planned down the road, but you can't get into that. And if people don't buy the first one, they're sure as hell not going to buy the second one.
Yeah. Man, it's tough. And I know writing, especially if you have a lot of ambitions and you want to knock someone's socks off with that first story, making it a large epic is not going to do it. And also explaining science, and it kind of makes like people can do that to death. Explaining all the whys everything works, and it's like, you have a comic book here. You're not writing an entire novel. You can't do that. Yeah, that's important. So it does make me wonder too. I've never been asked this question, and I've talked to an awful lot of artists about hiring them, looking at portfolios and stuff, but I've never had an artist ask to see my writing samples. They've wanted to make sure I have money, of course, but I almost think I think the quality of comics could be better if artists asked to see writing samples, and sort of said yeah, I want to collaborate. I just want to make sure it's a good fit. Let me see your writing. That would be really interesting to see. I have not ever experienced that so far. I'm going to pull this one out of the chat. Robert says, Clint, as a professional writer, is there a course somewhere that teaches practical comic book writing composition? Is there a down-low Marvel/DC style guide, community college course? There's a lot of ways to do it. There is Writing Comics the Marvel Way, which is a book. I personally don't write comics the Marvel way. It's more the Stan Lee way.
I mean, my recommendation on something like that is, learning to write, all kinds of writing deals with characterization, plot, all this kind of stuff. Whether it's screenwriting or prose fiction or TV writing or short fiction or novels, it all has the same stuff. So find something that you can do by yourself and then just start nugging away at the craft. There are plenty of creative writing workshops and classes and at local community colleges and things like that you should be able to get into. And once you kind of get the basics down on that, then, get one of these, Clint, what comic writing books have you seen that you like?
I don't. I don't like comic writing books. I've made some videos early in my YouTube channel's history on writing comics that I think are better, but I'm biased. But honestly, the writing stuff that's out there, there is, oh gosh, I'm part of this mailing list actually, and I get a daily, it's called the Daily Kick in the Pants. And I don't know why I'm drawing such a blank on the writer's name, but he writes novels and he's done writing for video games and stuff. Storytelling is the same. The tools, Scott, you're exactly right. The tools that you're using and the format might be different, but still how to write good characters, how to build worlds, understanding voice and writing good dialogue, that is the same in every single medium. So if you really want to understand writing and be a great writer, I would look at people that dedicate themselves to the craft of writing rather than comics as a whole. There are a lot of great writers in comics, but
so my thought is that once you've kind of, okay, I'm a passable writer and now I want to start working my way into comics.
Yeah.
If that's where you're at, but you've never written comics, then one of those books, about a quarter of it will deal with the actual format stuff that helps you kind of go from just telling a story to writing a comic book script. That, that is heck, all I had back in the day when I started learning was the old Dark Horse script submission guidelines, the full script formatting, that's all I had. I mean, because I was a short story writer back, that's how I kind of learned my trade.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at scripts I think is helpful. But the thing is they're formatted so differently, and some writers will write full script. I write full script personally. I'll tell you with Nacho, he doesn't like that. But like I'm like, this is how I write it so I can figure out the pacing. And then I give him a ton of leeway and flexibility to change it. And then I will make the lettering work. So even on those first 5 pages we did for the campaign, that was written in full script. It changed, and it actually, he ended up using more pages than I had anticipated, but I think that was for the better. And that was the good thing about the collaboration. And then it was kind of a challenge for me afterward. It wasn't too bad, but just to make sure that the dialogue accomplished what it needed to accomplish in the pages that we had. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of back and forth, and there's not like one set way to do it. But if you want to know how I do it, I have like 3 or 4 videos on writing comics. They're I don't even remember what they're called, but I've done them in this channel, but they don't get very many views, so I kind of stopped doing those.
Angram's comment, he makes a good point. He talks about some writers kind of want you to clear their doubts, like asking, is this good? Should I could change something? And he says, I get it, but I don't want that responsibility. So I kind of agree with him there. And where I agree with him is that as a writer, if you hire an artist to help tell your story, like I said, he's got some room on the margins, but ultimately you need to have a clear path for that artist to, if I'm hiring you to be my artist and a co-writer, well, that's a different type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yep.
You need to be able to tell a clear story.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. And I think for me, like I want to come to a project prepared to be lifting as much weight as I can. If the artist wants more creative leeway, then I want to be able to prepare to give them more creative leeway as long as it works for the story. But yeah, I shouldn't be hiring an artist just to do everything for me. That makes sense. And Angram says, I'm not an editor and I'm afraid of ruining their script for their story. I might just suggest taking out a panel or something, but I don't mess with the story unless it's also my story. And that's why you should work with an editor. I officially hired an editor to help me with Downcast. I just want to make sure it's perfect. And then I missed Scotty Richards Studios. He says, sweet cast, those BS Scott McCloud books. Those are on writing. Oh, you know what a great book is? I think it's called Self-Editing. I've got it. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. Self-Editing, something like that. Self-Editing. That book is amazing because it actually goes through the whole writing process, and it's going to tell you everything that an editor is going to be looking at to make sure, and not just writing, like plotting your story, everything, dialogue, everything. It was like $8, I think, on Amazon, and worth much more than that.
Have you ever worked with an editor before?
I have not worked with I've not worked with a professional editor. I've worked with an aspiring. So at the time he was an aspiring professional editor. Now he is a professional editor. So he's the one that I hired. I didn't pay him the first time. Now I'm paying him.
So when I was first working on Door Kickers back in 2015, I don't know how much of this I've told you, but so there's the 10-page story that you've seen, and then on top of that, there was a 4-issue miniseries that follows directly behind the 10-pager, and then there was also a kind of a double-sized single or one-shot, and both through the 10-pager and all the other subsequent books, which scripts are now written and on my hard drive. It went from story concept, I pitched 3 different concepts and he said, oh yeah, I like this one the best. Let's work this one in. And this second concept could be cool too, but I think it's longer. So let's work on that as a separate thing. And so it was very much an iterative process as a writer and the editor. So we went back and forth, and it really helped me as a writer understand, because I was getting paid. You know, like these guys were paying me, you know, a ridiculously low page rate as a writer, but still they were paying me to produce a story and a script that they could then put in a book and they could sell it. So I thought that was a really interesting process, and it was the first time I'd ever been, you know, done it that way. I think all my other processes are more like your experience, where you just kind of come up with a story and then you start bouncing off the writer or off the artist, and when they give you the thumbs up, then you just write the script.
Yeah, it's in a writers group can, if you know, if you don't have access to an editor, if you're not interested in paying an editor, a writers group, again, it's not a group of people that like to read. It's a group of people that like to write and they have studied the craft. They're going to be able to help you so much more than just readers. Right, Kitty says, how do you work with your editors? It depends. Scott described it really great. That's well, I don't know what kind of editor they call it, but that's like the biggest high level kind of editor. And then
my understanding is that the guy who was kind of the publisher, and he wasn't my direct editor, but he's the guy I knew in the company, and he was in the loop for the whole thing, and he would give notes as well. But the guy he had editing, you know, he was a professional editor in training, and you know, he was the, you know, kind of the assistant editor, and this is his first opportunity to step up into a, you know, a full story. So.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I talked to my buddy offline several times. He said, listen, this is how you do it. And, you know, at the pros, you're working at the pro level now. This is, you know, so this is what we're going to do. You know, it is your story, but it is your creation, but it is also a product, and I'm going to sell it in order for, you know, so and, you know, my understanding is in Hollywood, it's the same way. You know, executives get the opportunity to do their cut and their notes, and, you know, what the fuck did they know about writing?
Yeah. They're going to have, yeah, especially at that level, the writer has much less control. And then let's see. Pete says The Art of Comic Book Writing by Mark Keentz is a great book, not just for writers. I'm an illustrator and got a copy for myself, so I'd be on the same page as the writer, my brother. Yeah, that sounds like I have not read that book, but yeah, I know there's several out there. Inzane Comics says, how do you find an editor? Well, I mean, pretty soon my editor, I'm going to get him on a live stream and we're going to talk about this. He started his business. He's done it a lot. He's done more line editing, and that's a different kind of process of editing. It's more low level, like they're just looking at how things are worded and the prose and all that kind of stuff, rather than big like plot things. But yeah, I had him as a line editor. Now he's like a full-fledged, he's my editor. I'm gonna have him on a live stream when he's ready for it. I've talked to him a bit, and hopefully he'll be able to answer some of those questions. And then, sorry, I'm just looking up. I know we got a question on how do you find artists. That question comes up like almost every live stream. Let me show you guys something real quick because I'm thinking about it. Let me just share my screen here. Oh, I've had it locked on me the whole time too. Great.
Such a selfish prick.
Yeah. Here's an artist, Paulo Sequeira. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I found this guy on DeviantArt, and he's worked for Marvel and DC. I Googled him, and I want to hire this guy really bad, but I don't even really have a good way to contact him. But let me look. Like, he's done some pages that are just, most of these are pencils.
What's his name?
Paulo. Oh, my thing's getting stuck here.
Paulo.
Paulo Sequeira. He's Brazilian.
I'm just looking him up on Instagram. Maybe he's on there.
Yeah. He's amazing. Let me see. Like, even just. So the reason I'm sharing this is how I've actually had success on DeviantArt finding artists. I just started an Instagram account earlier this week. I mean, I've had it, but I've never used it. Just started using it, and there's a lot of art there and a lot of artists that are quite active. Problem with DeviantArt is you got to find an artist that's active on DeviantArt. He's not, but I don't know if you can see this. Those are just pencils. This is amazing art. So yeah, I really want to hire this guy. But this is, I mean, that's part of the process. You're just looking for artists. Sometimes you can put a call out for artists on social media, and you're gonna be sussing through a whole bunch of art to decide, you know, who you're interested in hiring, and if you're not interested in hiring anybody. But I'll tell you, if this guy got back to me and we could negotiate something, I would not hesitate at all.
Hey, you know, I'll get with you offline. I might have a route to contact him.
That would be amazing. Very cool. Yeah, so that's an example. That's how you find an artist. There are a ton of artists out there. But then it's a matter of finding the right artist for your project, which is a whole other topic. And how you approach that it can be very different depending on the project. That would probably be a good question for both of you as well. I just want to see, right, Kitty? That's good. I'd love to hear from your editor. Yeah. I'll get him on. We've been talking. He's really good. He's been really great to work with. So,
well, you know, so this kind of goes to the structural issues within Comicsgate, right? And Clint, you and I have talked about this both on and off stream before, in that, you know, Comicsgate is an immature movement because, you know, while we are doing indie comics, we are not indie comics kind of guys. You know, we aren't Robert Crumb. We aren't people rejected by the, you know, the scene, if you will. You know, we are creating a parallel industry within Comicsgate, you know, and so as such, eventually, you know, a year from now, you're going to have companies that you can apply, you know, you can submit your stories to for publishing, or say, hey, listen, I'm willing to put that, you know, so, you know what I mean? Like the actual infrastructure will be there a year from now. So if you're in the position of like, you've got an idea for a book, but you don't think you're going to be ready for a year, trust me, by next summer, there will be multiple independent Comicsgate affiliated companies that are small publishing houses that will provide a lot of these turnkey services that young writers need in order to help focus their books, especially if you get that writer artist team, that's who really needs that, you know, to run the campaign and to edit the material, to help with the deadlines and things like that, you know, and they'll even, you know, they'll probably burden share as well, you know, for a piece of the action on the back end, because, you know, if you're independent and you bring in $40,000, you know, there's money to be made.
Yeah, there really is. And now it seems viable. I think I've talked to you a little bit about this, but I've considered, I could just try to start a publishing company. It's not, you know, the biggest thing is marketing. If you can sell it, then everything else, I mean, it would be a bit of a learning curve, but it's not rocket science, you know? So you just hire people that are capable, and you could do it. But I was like, I don't know. Now I'm like, maybe I could. I don't know. I still think that's years down the road if I decided I really wanted to do it. But there are others. I mean, there are going to be more established publishers that are going to be outside the mainstream and selling books, you know, without using Diamond, or in addition to using Diamond, they're going to be selling books no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is definitely important. So question, finding the right artist for your project. And often that comes up, and I've had to tell artists this a lot. Like, I love your writing. I think I have a better artist. I found a artist that's more suited to this particular project. And I'm sure artists out there have heard that before. How do you guys determine which artist is right for your project? And Artemis, why don't you let us know too about like how you selected Ebai Canales for your project?
Well, I've been following him while he was doing Ironsides, and first I started making commission art pieces from him, and just a series of nightly orders. Then it kind of moved towards playing a comic book and then making the comic book, and here we are.
Very cool. Yeah, so testing out, I guess, a few things in advance of the project. Did you write this book particularly for him? Like, was he your artist in mind when you wrote it?
Yeah, for this first book at least.
Yeah, cool. So that's a nice way to go about it, because if you look at an artist's strengths, if you know, for example, Matthew Weldon, I love his art. I think he's a fantastic artist.
Man, he's awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do a book with him. He's really good at drawing women. He's I don't know, I guess I kind of have to think about it a little bit more too, but he's got some definite strengths. And so to put him on a book that's like, hey, it's a book, it's like a team book just full of men. I just feel like that would be such a big missed opportunity, for example. And that's the biggest base level kind of thing I don't know, kind of point to. If somebody's really great at drawing action, you wouldn't want to put them in a book that doesn't have a lot of action. Again, that's not the right artist for the right project.
So no, you're spot on. I mean, and that goes back to my point earlier that we have to put our businessman hat on and decide, hey, I love his art, but if I don't have like a sexy girl in the story, like, my Door Kickers, I don't think has, because I wanted to go to, before I saw that you went to him, I wanted to go to him for a cover too. But I crunched the numbers. I was like, listen, Door Kickers has one girl. She's always wearing body armor. And she could barely tell that she's a girl most of the time. She's just shorter than the guys. So, I mean, I'm not playing to his strengths if I were to hire him.
Yeah.
So, I want to find somebody who can draw guns and who can draw violence of action. So that's who I want to, or the monsters, because the monsters are such a big part of my book too. So,
yep.
I mean, yeah, we got to think like businessmen,
Yeah. And if you worked for a publishing company, you might not have to. You probably wouldn't have to. If you worked for Marvel or DC as a writer, you're not going to be dealing with that kind of stuff. But at this level, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy because I've put a lot of years and hours into writing, but for Downcast, it's like I've put so much more time into marketing it ahead of time with just this YouTube channel. Every time I do a video, I consider it marketing. So much more time and effort has been put into that than actually writing. And that's because if you don't do that, the book's not going to get done. You can write the best thing ever, but especially as a writer, you have to be able to get it funded and get it out into readers' hands before they can really, see how great your writing is. So it's tough, but it works though. It seems to work for a lot of people. Yeah. I've been keeping an eye on the chat, but I didn't see any questions or comments. I'd love to know from artists, what do you wish writers would consider? I think a lot of this comes down to, if we continue down the route of talking about Matt Weldon, I don't think I've ever seen him draw a monster. So if I was going to do a monster story, I don't know. I guess I just want to see it in his portfolio. It would be awesome if...
Oh, I already know who I'd get for a monster, and I've already talking to him.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, good pick. I won't say anything, but...
Just got to get the schedule to work.
Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about. Anyway, let me know. You can confirm it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so that's, I guess, finding the right artist for the right project. I think it makes sense. So horror stories. That's kind of what I wanted to get into a little bit here. Have you guys had any relationships that you can say? I don't say any names or anything, but have you had any terrible working relationships with artists, and what have you learned from those? Because it could also be our fault as the writers. Surprise. But you guys had any horror stories that you're not afraid to share without causing serious issues?
That would be a no.
Mine's not with artists. I have other horror stories, but
yeah, no
not with
artist
artists.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually been overall pretty lucky. Only the one experience with an artist that, again, it was unpaid. It was just a collaboration, and he wanted to just be the writer too. So it was really hard. Yeah, we never got anything done. Obviously, there's nothing to show for it. So that was bad. But a paycheck would have changed everything. I learned from that experience.
So something I've actually thought about, and I'd be interested in getting any feedback on this. So I'm willing if you're willing to take like a 5 to 10% shave off of page rate or something like that, I'll pay you in Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. I've not heard that deal before. That
because Bitcoin can be worth 25% more by the end of the week. So, it can also be worth 25% less. It's a bit of a gamble, but
yeah.
It's also off the books.
That's true. Some, I don't know, some might be into that. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't even thought about it. I don't have any Bitcoin. Haven't even gone there.
I was just reminded of that because I opened Mike's stream or his video today, and the first thing he saw was a Bitcoin chart. I was just like, oh God. Or I guess maybe that was yesterday.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, that's a totally different topic, but people get so passionate about Bitcoin. I've not really understood it, but I mean, I guess I get like the ideal, or some of the ideals anyway, not all of them, but I just haven't. I don't know.
Yeah. So Stephen brings up. So this is another thing that we should talk about, because this is back on topic. Is how about stock options? Well, so he's being, I think, facetious, but I think so if Clint, if you're an artist and I'm a writer, and I say, hey, let's create a story, we'll come up with the concept together, and then I'll write the story and you do the art, and we'll own 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think in order for that to work, I think it's got to be an organic process. You as the artist, you have to feel like that 50% of what people are seeing in the concept, that is you, right? You just can't be a hired gun that is getting some back end, right? That can't be what it is. It's got to, you've got to feel like you own that. Like, that's my character. I made him up. I know the writer is saying we're 50-50 partners, but I know in my heart of hearts that as an artist, that is my guy. I made him. The people, the Wolverine or whatever is all his idea. Whatever. So I think as writers, we have to be realistic to that. Now, that being said, if you give up 50% of any kind of future ownership of something, potentially, depending on the type of property, certain types of property are easier to port into other mediums than others. I'll be honest with you, independent comic book ideas or superhero comics are a harder sell to TV and movies than, say, a horror or something that's a little more grounded, that just there's a lot of movies that people have no idea they have comic book origins because they're not superheroes.
Yeah.
And the big money is TV money, man.
Yeah, that's true. If there's an artist that's willing to, like, long-term thinking, okay, short-term, a page rate is nice, right? I mean, it's good, it's important, but long-term, you want to have something to show for it. Otherwise, I mean, what are you going to, like, down the road? You want royalties, you want intellectual property, all those kinds of things. I think there's a lot of deals that could be worked out. The thing is, I've never had an artist jump on that, and I don't really offer it that often. When I bring up projects I want to do, saying like, "Hey, I don't want to pay you up front, but I'll pay you 50%. Like, we'll just share everything afterward." As a writer, it definitely makes you more attractive. I would say that, like, getting a successful thing done, like Downcast, now that's been done, I get a lot of artists sending me portfolios now, like unsolicited, which is great. Like, I love seeing it. But yeah, if you can demonstrate that, that's a big part of the battle. We'll say that. Zaid Comics says, I have horror stories with artists as writers. yeah, can you sum it up in the chat? That'd be interesting what the summation would be of the horror story. Yeah, so with artists, usually the complaints I hear is about creative work. That's a big one. How creative they can be, or if they're just like a printer that's printing out what's on the script, if they want to be more creative. And then another one is not getting paid enough, not getting paid on time, or anything like that. Not, a writer not sticking to what they decide. And that's why I think contracts are important.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I'm always the one that initiates a contract. I've never had an artist bring that up and saying, "Hey, can we sign a contract?" It's always been me, which is interesting. Do you guys do contracts with writers?
Go ahead.
I haven't.
Haven't? Okay.
Yeah, so like the original Door Kickers thing, it was a 32-page contract. So yeah, I did. Yeah, I even had to sell some of the equity in the project to the company. That was kind of the deal.
Yeah.
But when the company went tits up, I was able to get, everything back. So,
Wow.
so that worked out. But, for my current thing, it's more of a handshake deal, an internet handshake deal. Hey, here's the page rate I'm willing to pay you. I'm willing to pay you every time I get X number of pages, or whatever. That's, so it's kind of like, with my artist, it's not like he's down the street from me and, we're seeing each other. I mean, he's in Indonesia, he's waking up right now as I'll be going to bed in a few hours. So it's kind of, it's more of a, if he doesn't give me art, then I'll never give him money.
Right.
I'm not paying, I think I'm going to give him here shortly some earnest money just to show him that the money is real. It's going to come, so, that's how I'm going to operate. I mean,
yeah, it makes sense. When you said a 32-page contract, I was like, you mean the book? Or yeah, no, I get you.
Hey, dude, I'll send you the copy. You'll get a kick out of it.
Nice. Yeah, I did. With interior pages, I do contract because you're talking about a long period of time, a lot that can go wrong, that kind of thing. My contract though is 3 pages long. And then actually, like, for example, hiring an artist just to do a variant cover or something, I've not done a contract. And I probably could have, but I don't know. There wasn't as much at stake, I guess. So I don't know. I didn't stress about it too much. I had, let's see, Zaid Comics told us a horror story. He said, sure, a long time ago, friend artist and I was working with to draw my script, pass off my script to her processor, and she said she wrote it to get a good grade. Oh. So stealing the work then, huh? It got really quiet. Am I the only one in here?
No, you're not the only one in here.
Okay,
It was muted.
Okay, all good. I was just like, man, it's like so peaceful. All right, Angram says, me and my writer are co-owners and creators of our story. The story is 90% him, but I have contributed a lot of creating characters and help him with ideas. We are a creative team. That's awesome. When you have a partnership like that works really well, and I will say with Nacho, he's been really, really great. I've been very pleased with him. He's been super professional. So yeah, with him, I'm like, let's make down, if it sells well, if people receive it well, let's make more books. Why not? Why wouldn't we? Just gonna look down here. Just a reminder. Yeah, Clint got scared. Yeah, if you guys have questions, just do ask Sweetcast, or if you have comments too. I love hearing your comments as well. So let's take a look, Artemis. Let's take a look at your book again. We've got 53 people watching. And just a reminder to everybody, it does really help the channel if you leave a like. So don't hesitate to smash like. And then I'm going to share the screen here. And Artemis, give us the pitch again for Necromancer.
Yes, Necromancer, a science fantasy setting, the advanced technology and dark magic, where the Necromancer Gregor Mortem must solve a murder mystery involving a heretic.
Very cool. And this is art by Ebi Canalis. He's awesome.
Yes, if you scroll down, you can find some interior pages.
Nice covers. Oh yeah, some
the
nice
color
action.
palette.
Yeah, I do like that color palette. It's very cool. Does Ebi color this too himself?
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, cool guy. Nice action, it looks like. And I think Canalis is really good with the action.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because I looked at the abductables and it's like small aliens that are getting beat up, and now here it's like small. Or are these orcs?
These are goblins.
Goblins. Yeah. That sounds.
Those are hobgoblins.
Hobgoblins. Cool. Nice. It's always great to see interior pages.
Fantasy races. There's like a staunch in the lower right, and an elf to the left.
Off to the... Sorry, say that again.
And that's Aiden Paladin singing there.
Oh, nice. Very cool. And I remember this got brought up. No, she's not naked. Yeah, totally different. Different stream. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so if you are interested in checking this out, let me see where you're at with the campaign. A goal of $2,000. You still have 33 days left. Plenty of time. You're at 37% funded. I have no doubt this will get funded. So yeah, if you're interested, totally check out Necromancer. The book is in the comment section, or in the comment section. The link to it is in the description below, so you can check that out. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, trying to help you.
Oh, he's finishing your sentence, Clint. You got the close already.
That's right. And then I'm just going to remind you guys, Downcast is here too. The link's in the description below, and I keep popping it in periodically. And yeah, this will be great. This will cement the fact that I'm doing more books. I want to do a Downcast book first, want everyone else to see it. But I'm definitely going to do another project. If I have anything to say about it, it might be Paulo here, but I don't know. I'm not announcing anything at all. I've not even talked to the guy. I'm just saying he's an amazing artist. So, all right, let me check up on chat. Slick Rick says, "What do you think about EVS's publisher news?" Yeah, guys, did you hear about that? I want to talk about this. That's a good point.
I haven't heard about it.
He said,
"Fill me in."
You haven't? Okay. He said that he had a publisher. He's been teasing this for quite a while. And so first off, I think everybody needs to understand All Caps Comics is a imprint. It's a publishing imprint. And that's what he said from the beginning. And then a publisher is a different thing. So for example, a publisher is like DC Comics, and then Vertigo is an imprint that is owned by DC Comics. It works very similarly in everything, and you could publish there. But usually when you say imprint, that means it's connected to a publisher, a larger publisher. So he said that variant covers would give away the news. And on the stream, was it last night or the night before, a couple nights ago, he was mentioning that Cyberfrog would be in other books, and he mentioned Vampirella. I didn't actually hear him officially say that was going to be it. Oh, Doug let it slip. Okay, so we are talking about Vampirella then. So that means Dynamite Comics. Am I correct there? I got to double check here to make sure I'm not lying. Is that what your understanding was, Scott? Wow, it's totally silent now.
Are you muted?
Scott, I don't know if I don't know. He ducked out. Yes, I heard it. EVS said vamp. Yeah. Okay, as long as the chat can hear me, we're going to keep going. Scott ducked out, I guess, for a minute, or something's not working, Scott. Oh, he's popping in twice. There we go. Double Scotts.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
It's all good. That's happened to me before too. Yes, Doug said, "Are you still going with Dynamite?" Oh, I mean, okay. I wonder why he was waiting. That's so funny. Yeah, so that sounds pretty official to me. So Dynamite Comics is going to be the publisher, and then more specifically, All Caps Comics, I would assume would be the imprint. I didn't actually hear him say that he would keep All Caps as an imprint. It's totally possible he could be just with Dynamite straight up. I don't know. I don't know that it matters.
I can't believe he wouldn't do an imprint, because that let him kind of have other people's books in his imprint.
Yeah, I think that's still what he wants to do, and I imagine Dynamite,
like Rainbow Brute would be part of that imprint.
Yep, and he wanted to hire Kanan White, and I don't think any of this changes. All it does is that the publisher is going to be able to handle a lot of the printing, shipping, all that kind of nonsense that gets
the logistics, like we were talking about.
Yep, the logistics, and then he can focus on hiring the creative part, but also hiring creative people, which can be a creative process in and of itself, and then promoting it, getting the word out, all that kind of stuff. I actually think I don't see any negative with this. I think it's a great thing. I am just shocked that a publisher was down to do it.
Yeah, I didn't expect Dynamite to go with them.
Yeah, I kind of I was speculating with my wife, and I thought, you know what, maybe it's Image. That would be the only one I can think of because it's creator owned. Maybe it would be Image, but I had a hard time believing it because Image is definitely influenced by ideology for sure. But yeah, Dynamite was apparently open to it. So it's really, really shocking to me, but I don't know, pretty cool. Do you guys see I haven't heard anybody complaining about it. I'm surprised it hasn't been bigger news circulating online. All it was Doug slipped something, I guess. I didn't hear that part. And then that's been about the end of it as far as I've been aware. And apparently Artemis, you didn't hear anything about it at all. So yeah, it's all news to you.
Did the EDS put out a video today? He hadn't when I saw.
I don't think so. He hasn't been putting out very many videos, and I know he's trying to get that book done.
Yeah, well, he's saying yesterday he may not go to Star Wars Celebration. So
yeah, he said today that he decided he's not going.
That didn't surprise me.
Yeah, Slick Rick, Sweetcast. Let me see if I can find it. If you can find it. Yeah.
I was gonna get Anarch pressed by Mark Waid.
Say that again. Oh, he's gonna get tortiously interfered. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Behind the scenes, Dynamite had to have been thinking about this at length. But in order to decide to even do it, do you know what I mean? Or did they reach out to him? I would love to know all these kinds of details. I didn't hear any of them.
Yeah, the inside baseball to this would be pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'm just from a business standpoint, I'm super interested to know what happened, but I haven't seen anybody calling Dynamite, or saying like, you guys are publishing racism and bigotry. Did you know that? Because that's how it started with Antarctic Press, but I haven't seen anything yet. I don't know how people didn't catch that. Because I heard it. Apparently, at least 1,000 other people heard it. Let's see. Battle Dime said EVS did a tour of Dynamite back when he first started his YouTube. That's cool. I'm sure he knows a lot of people that work in the industry, and I know of several that he works with, or that he's mentioned publicly. But it really is a small industry, so he must know a lot. I want to know who his editor is too.
But let's analyze the business side of this. I mean, so Dynamite is not known for PC product. Vampirella. I mean, it's not very PC, right?
Yep, you're right.
And so I don't think they really care about what the SJW lot that's in the big two are saying. So maybe they see this as a market opportunity. If they can get the CG market share, then all of a sudden they go from being 3 to 4% market share to 10 to 15%, and they're the next IDW, or they're the next, what's the Boom or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Boom. Yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't, because this is distribution, not just distribution, but Dynamite actually has a name.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a tiny little publisher. It's definitely a smaller publisher, but Vampirella Comics. I didn't realize they're the ones that do Red Sonja too. I don't know why I was thinking that was done by somebody else, but
I thought they didn't get Red Sonja with Conan, like at Marvel. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But
this shows you how much I know about the current comic industry, though.
Yeah, I used to keep up on all this kind of stuff because I was like, this is how I got to break in. But now it's been so much focused on everything outside of the industry that it hasn't really mattered. But yeah, so they have editors listed here. I'm just looking through their website to see what we can see. I'm also curious at looking at their press thing, but I haven't seen anything official. I'm pretty sure heads are going to explode once they actually release something. Let's see, ratings, submission guidelines, writers, pencilers. No, these are just submission guidelines. I don't see editors here. Let me try that again. Editors, the editor. That's it. Okay, never mind. Media Center. I'm just curious what they have. And I don't think so. I don't see anything. They'd have Ethan Van Sciver's name right in it. So I don't know. It's really, really good news. They also, I imagine, a lot of people have complained outside of the US being able to get Comicsgate books. Dynamite is going to have much more access for worldwide distribution. So while this would just be Ethan at the moment, I also see this being good for everybody all around, because if the industry is realizing, like, you know what, people have different opinions, who cares, let's sell comics, I think that's going to be good for everybody.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, just think of the burden, he has with, just the art, his style of art. And I know he's going to be, working, a lot looser on Rainbow Brute, but, just having that kind of business piece, that he doesn't have to worry about, that back end service. I mean, obviously our campaigns are going to be, just a fraction of what his is, but you and I both work full-time jobs. I mean, it's going to be a heavy lift to do, once the books are sold and the fulfillment begins. So if I had like a small shop that it says, hey, listen, for 10% of your total raised, we will handle it for you, I'd be like, I'm in. Where do I sign up?
Right.
Because if I make 10,000, I give them 1,000. No, that's an easy deal, and that's just my first 1,000 in profit. So
right. Yeah, I mean, even now I'm considering getting a fulfillment service. I see the value in it. I think I don't know. I've got a lot of friends and family. Like, if I'm only shipping out 1,000 copies, then I think I'm going to do it myself. I get friends and family, but it's still like, that's a lot. It's a lot of books. If it's more than that, I don't know. It would be really hard. So like being willing to pay somebody to do that, being willing to pay a publisher to do it, especially the benefit of just getting worldwide distribution, that's a pretty big deal. I don't know if it's Jesus or Jesus A. Cabello says, Sweetcast, he's very familiar with the folks from Dynamite because they're also in New Jersey and they're close to his town. He says they're good folks. Yeah,
that makes sense.
That does. I didn't realize they were based in New Jersey, but that makes a lot more sense because he has said a couple times that he just I just drove back from a meeting. I remember thinking, who does he have a meeting with? Why would you have a meeting if you're just kind of doing your own thing? But that makes a ton of sense.
Yes, Stephen in the chat says increased production and competition in the digital age could be the method in which we break Diamond's hold on distribution. I mean, I don't know about the digital portion of that, but I think, folks like what Peter Sameti's doing with Alterna in direct distribution, I think there's something to that, even if it's only local comic shops. But I think more importantly is how do we get the comics back on spinner racks at Walmart and and the various stores like that. All the Rite Aid and Walgreens. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been giving this a lot of thought. I think the drugstores. I think that's where you focus. Because they're smaller. You can. People go there a lot, especially in big cities. So.
I even think 7-Eleven, that would be great. 7-Eleven is technically it's the biggest retail chain in America.
Yeah, with the most stores.
Yeah, and a lot of the times they don't even do gas, but that's beside the point. But people go there to buy things, and I mean, I hate to say like make local comic shops compete. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you're on a road trip and you got kids in the back seat and they're annoyed and bored and all that kind of stuff, like picking up comics, I don't know, just having it being that reachable, accessible for people. I think that's important. But I'm hoping this shakes some things up in the industry. Maybe this is just the beginning, but I think if there's a lot of, I don't know, I was trying to think, would I ever work for, let's say I'm focused on the writing, I'm promoting my stuff, doing well, would I ever go to a mainstream publisher if things change? And if things change, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem with the publishers anymore, right?
It depends on the project, right? I mean, I would never create, like, if I thought I came up with a gangbuster idea, even if it was a superhero idea, I would be very hesitant if, okay, so let's say Door Kickers does well and the next thing does well, and 3 years down the line, I've got some creator-owned books that are churning away. And I've retired from my day job and I'm making enough money to where my retirement and my writing can get me by. And Marvel kicks out all the SJWs and they decide to go with business instead of politics. And they say, hey, Scott, you want to come on over here and write a book? And I would say, sure. Who doesn't want to write a Marvel book? That being said, I would think long and hard before I give them my best ideas.
Yeah.
Unless there was like DC's got a pretty good back end structure. So like you get royalties on your good ideas, but Marvel's is not. And so that would be a big part of my equation. Like, if you want me to write a Wolverine story, great, I'll do that. I'll use characters that they've already created. I'll make my story and, I get in, I get out, nobody gets hurt. Right. But I'd want some sort of a back end deal if they said, hey, we'd love for you to create a new villain for this character. And we want a 4-issue miniseries based around the villain and the hero.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of energy to not get anything on the back end.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I've said this before too, but I don't really want to write somebody else's characters. Like, even if I love Spider-Man, I think Daredevil, like I have ideas that I could do for Daredevil, but I still don't think I would do it. A creator own for me that would have to be the way I went, unless this is all just pie in the sky speculation. Surprise everyone. But if for some reason like Ethan was like, hey, you want to write Cyberfrog, like write an issue of Cyberfrog, that would be really fun. I would totally do that. Or same with other like Comicsgate projects that are out there and being successful. But I don't know, like for me, my dream was always to be published by Image, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I'm trying to think, they wouldn't have me. But for some reason down the road, if they did, would I be published by them? I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to still. Zaid Comics says, did you get a chance to watch that video on using panel layouts and comic writing I tagged you in today? No. I don't remember. I did post something on Twitter today that I've been getting so many mentions this week that I'm missing things. So I apologize if I missed it, but I will look back. I'm interested in seeing more videos on that kind of stuff. Rusty Shackleford says, how do you go about actually getting a comic made and published via Indiegogo funds. It's really not that complicated. I'm not saying it's not hard. It's hard, but it's not complicated. I'm still going through the process. I've got the funds, and that takes months of planning and preparation and marketing and making sure you got a creative team together. You launch your Indiegogo, promote the heck out of it, and then you got to get a publisher, or excuse me, a printer to print the books, and then you're shipping it to people. Basically, so it's really not that complicated, or that in, you know, generally speaking, but there's all sorts of things that can rise up along the way. I hope that answers your question in a really basic sense. Scotty Richard Studio says, I think toys packed with a comic. I think old school He-Man would look attractive on shelves. I'll tell you, I totally agree with that. I actually bought, I've said this before, I love Beast Wars. Even though the art is super dated, the graphics, but I bought both my son and my daughter a Beast Wars toy, and the one of them, he got a rat trap, and it came with a comic book it was a standard size comic and everything, Transformers comic, and it came with it, and that was really cool. He liked it and I liked it. So hi Eric, great to see you. And Eric, we're probably not going to stream much.
Oh, yeah. I gotta bail out right now.
Oh, you got to bail out?
Go. Yeah, I gotta get ready for work.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. We probably won't go much longer, but yeah, everybody check out Necromancer. It's on Indiegogo.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, man.
All right, thanks. See ya.
See ya. So I'm going to get through the rest of these. I'm supposed to be on Professor Geek's stream later. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but he kind of streams late. Shinobi Raccoon says, it's gotten to the point I don't recognize the X-Men anymore, so I would not want to work on them. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. The magic's not really there. Like, I wouldn't even, where would you continue the stories? I don't know. Zaid Comics says, thanks, Sweetcast. You liked it. I also did one on using panels to convey panic and horror while trying to build audience in prep for crowdfunding. Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, let me look back at it, Zaid. Zaid Comics. I'll watch it for sure. Shinobi Raccoon says, Sweetcast, I'd love to work on a Robotech story. Nice, very cool. Eric says, yeah, I if I had gotten home sooner, I'd hop on. Yeah, Eric, I'm going to try and invite you on more frequently for sure.
Man, Eric, the man who does it all. I think he's the busiest man in Comicsgate.
Yeah, he is. I swear, he's lettering every book. It would not surprise me if he's lettering Necromancer. Eric, are you lettering Necromancer? Yeah, I don't know how he has time for everything. I'm assuming Eric must be one of really the few people in Comicsgate that's doing it full time. It sounds like he's working full time. Man, how would that be? He says no comment. That's funny.
I need to talk to Eric about doing door kickers for me.
Yeah,
I don't have a letterer yet.
Eric, yeah. I've been so impressed with Eric, even down like he designed the logo. I had some Illustrator Monk on Twitter. I don't know. Do you follow Illustrator Monk?
I don't know. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, well, Illustrator Monk does some nice drawings, and I was mentioning this was way early on.
I do follow him, yeah.
Okay, yeah. He or she, I don't know, was like, "Hey, do you want me to do a logo for you?" And they did just a really basic one. I was like, "Oh, very cool," just a real quick one. And yeah, anyway, so getting together with Eric, I was like, this is kind of what I have so far. And then he turned it up to, he changed some things, but yeah, he turned it up to 11. And now it's like, I love that logo. I'm trying to make a t-shirt of it, but it's not ready yet. So yeah, I'm just working out. Again, this is business stuff. I'm working it out, but yeah, we'll have a t-shirt of that logo.
I hope you dial it up to 11 on that t-shirt, because you had some great designs as far as both just the general art that you're using, and I think there's some really cool things you could do with that t-shirt. So I know you don't want to spill the beans just yet, but yeah, I hope you really kind of do more than just a logo t-shirt.
Man, I want a logo T-shirt, but yeah, I've actually sent. I've just been talking.
No reason you can't do 2 T-shirts.
Exactly. Yeah, I've talked to Crypto Fashion and I've sent them a few things. The logo is going to cost less, so that's the only thing is I'm just trying to see how much everything costs, and
Yeah, you got to pay the prep, the art prep or whatever.
yeah. So I just want to make sure it's all going to work. Adam AF says, listening on my way home from work. Hey, Adam, it's great to talk to you. I streamed with him last week on his show, Arch City Comics. So if you guys don't check that out, they're funny.
He's a good dude.
Yeah. Slick Rick, go to 11:22 of EVS's live chat stream from a couple of days ago. Clint, if you can play it. I can play it. You guys won't be able to hear it, though. That's the problem. Because it's not set up for there to be any audio. Like if you're screen recording, I'll be able to hear it, but you all won't. But yeah, I'm gonna pull that out. That might even be worth doing a full like video, and I'll post it. Rusty Shackleford. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I think if you're gonna do that, I think you got to get a statement from EVS, like journalist style.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna post. Do you have a comment? You give him a chance to comment on the record, or just let it go without comment.
Yeah. That's true. And I like to. Yeah, it's no surprise. I'm not like 100% unbiased. Like all my videos are biased, and that's why I don't do reviews of comic books, because I'm always going to say great things about Comicsgate people. And yeah, I consider Ethan a friend as well. So yeah, I'd want to give him that courtesy. Yeah, Rusty Shackleford says, how do you get a creative team together? I'm completely new to this and want to do right before wasting anyone's time beforehand. Love the content and the channel, by the way. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We talk a lot about getting a creative team together. I think I'm assuming that you're going to be a writer, and if you're a writer, you're also the businessman. And you're going to be selling this thing. You're going to be marketing. So I would say make sure that you know what you're doing when you're writing. If this is the first thing you've ever written in your entire life, besides an email, I would suggest learn creative writing. There are tons of free content, YouTube channels, stuff like that, writing novels, all that kind of stuff. It's really helpful. Learn to write so that you feel really comfortable with it, and learn how to take feedback. So starting a writer's group is really helpful, and you can get feedback from other people that are working on the craft of writing. And then you got to find an artist, and you got to have money. If you really want it to get done, and you're doing a long form project, you got to save up some money to be able to pay an artist to get it started out. Yeah, hope that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that, just to kind of pull a couple points that like, Mike and a couple other guys in the chat were saying earlier, is that make sure you know what your artist is capable of. What are their capabilities? And set those right and left limits so that you're not asking them to do something that's going to frustrate you down the road later when you find out they can't do it.
Yeah.
And then you hire me for lettering.
Oh, you did. Good jump in. Sorry,
what can I say?
I'm not even paying attention to what's going on.
We still love you.
Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Hey, it's good to stream with you again. We were on once together. But I don't know what your thoughts on getting a creative team together. Letterers get looked over so much, and it bothers me because you can tell when a book is lettered poorly, it ruins everything, and I don't even want to buy the book.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. The big thing that I saved everybody from was Zach's lettering in Jawbreakers Lost Souls. No, because you're right. That's what I told him when I emailed him to see if he would hire me. Was bad lettering can ruin an otherwise fantastic book, and so it really for me, like I really notice it now, like big time.
Yeah.
I notice all the little things that would just slip past most other people, tangents and just spacing of the balloon within the panel itself. Like, I forget where I was. I look at comic pages all day. I forget which one it was, but it was subtle. It was like if you had moved this balloon a millimeter to the left, it would have balanced the entire panel. And right now, because like I said, I don't know, I can't give you context, but it was just giving too much weight towards the character. And if it would move just slightly over to the left, it would have sort of just made it flow a lot better. But yeah, definitely hire a good letterer. I'm not the only one out there, but I am 100% Comicsgate friendly.
Yeah.
By friendly, I mean 100% Comicsgate.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a big one. I contacted 2 other letterers before I talked to you. I mean, okay, so I sent out emails to like 5 letterers, I think the same day, or DMs on Twitter. You were one of them. And I had 2 other people respond back to me, and we got in a conversation. And then I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm unmistakably Comicsgate, and you know, I have a YouTube channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah,
They're like U-turn.
Yeah.
Caution.
They're like, nothing personal, man. I think they were a little worried I was gonna make a video or something, but I'm like, no,
Yeah.
cool, man. Like, you do your thing. Anyway, so anyway, so that's how you and I got connected. And yeah, I've been I've said this before, I want you to letter everything I ever do.
Well,
you do a really great job.
Well, thank you, and I will gladly do that. So
perfect.
So let's hold hands as we skip through this forest.
There we go.
Whatever metaphor we want to look for.
That is indie comics. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Creative. So you're an artist as well, and this has been a big topic. And we have all these writers talking about how we can be better to artists. But we didn't have any artists. We had some in the chat, like Ann Graham. Okay. But I'm curious. Do you have any horror stories from clients that you could share without jeopardizing anything?
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily call it horror stories. I think I've been lucky enough to at least work with writers that are understanding of my need as an artist to alter what they have written to better suit the story. So things like pacing or panel layouts, or not panel layouts. Sometimes, you know, you'll get a script and it's like, I want this panel across the top and these 3 are going to come across them. I'm like, let me do that. But like number of panels, for instance, we want 9 panels and here's a mountain of dialogue. I'm like, okay, well, I will draw a stick figure and then you'll have enough room for your for all your dialogue. So there are things like that as an artist where you have to kind of push back and say, I see what you're going for here, but you know, you're changing a scene in the middle of a page. So can we move that to the next page? That'll free up. That'll take it from 7 panels, and you want this big action. That'll take it from 7 panels to 4 on one page and 3 on another, and then you can have that action breathe, and you can see things better, and you can tell the story will flow better that way. Things like that. You know, understanding page turns, and a lot of new writers don't understand page turns. It's a real simple fix, but a page turn reveal, you know, you want if a character like looks in shock off panel at the end of a page, it shouldn't be the next facing page where that reveal is. It should be after you've turned the page. There's this sort of what's going to happen next kind of feeling when you're reading it. So
it's like the closest thing you can get to a jump scare. Film, but you got to turn that page, see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
all this is great.
Okay, Eric. Hey, this is Scott. By the way, it's good to meet you, man. This is the first time I think we've ever talked before. Chatted a little bit, but my question to you as an artist, I mean, so I think, you know, as a writer, the issue with writers is we have to get over that trust, because a lot of writers, you know, it's like, oh, I know in my head what's going to happen. So you have to trust the artist in order to, you know, to deliver that vision or to improve upon the vision. On the artist side, the way I see it, because, you know, I've been talking about how this has got to be, you know, you're as a writer, often you're half of the creative team, but you're also that publisher, you know, especially in an indie comics game like we're doing. I think from what I see, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, is the artist has to understand the intent of the writer. And now the writer may have a very clear idea of where he's going, like how many panels on a page or what dialogue. But if you understand the intent that as an artist, you can then, okay, listen, I know what you're going for here. I can do it in half the panels and it'll look way cooler if we do it like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That goes hand in hand with what I was saying about, the flow of the page in terms of like, well, for instance, the first page of Oz, when I got the script of Operation Zephyr, Zeb had written, it's just to this establishing scene of an opening car chase, and it's in the city, and he was showing that he wanted to show that there was through a character that is just a random guy. He's not part of the story, but through a character, he wanted to sort of show the world a little bit. And this guy was like 3 panels of this guy running, looking over his shoulder, headlights blaring, and then a big panel of the car sort of spinning around the corner and him jumping out of the way. And I'm like, I can do that in one panel. Like you can show the screeching of the car around the corner and the guy jumping out of the way and still have him dressed up in the gear that we're going to have these people wear. And it still gets the point across, and you're not sacrificing any of the storytelling. And I think it makes for a better image because it's just in your face right off the bat. So yeah, I mean, you're right. The artist does need to understand the intent of the writer. And sometimes that's easier than others, because I've had scripts where it's been difficult because I feel like I haven't been given enough information to what's the word I'm looking for? To accurately portray what the writer wants, or if there's not enough information for me to get the information on paper, then what are we missing here? How can we fix this? So.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Since we're talking about Jawbreakers, what's the first book you lettered, or can you say, or like before you did that one? It seems like that was the beginning of all of these lettering jobs that you must have.
Well, the first book I lettered was my own book. It was Flying Fortress. But actually, I'll grab it real quick. The first book I got hired for is a book called Avior. And Dead Air. And
while you're grabbing that, I'm going to read some of these ultra chats. Oh, by the way, everyone, I actually talked to YouTube on Twitter today. They responded to me. I said it's been 4 months since I have been ready to be monetized. Are you guys going to tell me anything? And they said, oh, send us a screenshot. Like they didn't believe me. Whoever's in charge of their social media. I sent them a screenshot. Everything's approved. They have it said that I'm under review for 4 months. So I don't think we'll see what happens, but they said I'm going to probably be under a second review. Why? I don't know. But Slick Rick says that letter, Micah Myers, who stabbed Holy Smokes Samedi in the back, is working on that Deadbeats book. No surprise there. I don't have anything good to say about that book. Shinobi Raccoon says, whenever in doubt, ask questions. Yep. That's what we're doing.
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah. Open communication. It's just like a good marriage. Open communication is important.
Yep. It's kind of scary how that marriage analogy is so accurate, but it really is.
Yeah, there is a marriage between an artist and a writer if you both have the same goal, right? If you're both part of the book the same way. So, like, if I'm just like if I write something, because I write as well. If I write something, and not that I would necessarily hire somebody unless there was a specific look I was going for that I couldn't do. I would want to know that, because obviously as an artist, I would want to know, I would have a vision in my head. I want it to look like this. So I may not be a good writer to work with, because I would be more of an editor, more of a creative director than necessarily a writer. But there needs to be that connection, that trust, that like, I trust that you're going to write a good script, and you're going to trust that I'm going to draw good pages, and together we're going to make this thing amazing. Yeah. But to answer your earlier question, is this reading forwards or is it reading backwards?
It's backwards.
Reading backwards.
Let me flip it real quick.
It looks cool
OBS.
Backwards though too.
Yeah, I'm sure. This is flip horizontal. Bam. This was the first book I was hired for. It is just a self-published book from a guy here in town. And you'll notice the last name there of the writer is Hatfield. It's the same. This was Zeb before I met Zeb. This book was John Osborne and Zeb Hatfield. John Osborne is the artist. And it's sort of just like a Frankenstein in space kind of story. And John put a thing on Facebook saying, I need a letterer. And I was like, I kind of like lettering. I'll throw my hat in the ring. He sent me a sample page. And
you're talking John Malin?
No. John Osborne, the guy that drew this book.
Gotcha.
So this was my first paid lettering gig. Was just a self-published book. But this led into their next book, which is Avior, which was it's ongoing. Well, it's a mini-series. I'm still working on it. I mean, it's used by the Young Eagles Association, which teaches kids about airplanes and how to fly and all that kind of stuff. So this is a Stan Lee character that his foundation donated to this Young Eagles thing. And actually, I can't open it. It's all taped up. But I have credits I'm in the same credits page as Stan Lee. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
But yeah, these led into me lettering. Graveyard Shift was the first Comicsgate book.
Very cool.
So,
yeah, and John Malin, so he's the one I was on. I don't know, maybe you were there. I was in that stream with John Malin, and I was working out letters and stuff, and he was like, just have Eric do it.
Mm-hmm.
About it. Like, yeah, okay. I'm like him and Han like looking over and stuff. But it seems like you're so busy with just seeing all the credits that you have. Like you scroll through IndieCron and you're lettering like a lot. It seems like three quarters of the books that are up there. But you're still open for more lettering work.
Well, yeah, always. I mean, look at it this way. I can letter a book if I need to, depending on page count. Let's just say it's a standard 22-page, 24-page book. I could do that in a day. So it's not a matter of being overwhelmed with too much that I just don't have time to letter. Now, it does feel like I have this list of projects, and knowing what's coming down the pipeline, I have a feeling that May is going to be very busy for me because I know that, well, he hasn't officially announced anything, but there is a very high profile book.
Has something to do with a colorful poultry of some kind.
Maybe. I don't know. He's talked to me, obviously, but whoever he may be. But yeah, there's a lot of work coming in May from that. And then, I've got all of your boy Zach's work, John Malin stuff, anything from Cautionary. Yeah, I guess all of Sweetcast stuff. I know Brutus is coming up soon, and that's probably going to be because I think we're just waiting on colors now. When Donald wanted to send me everything at once, so
yeah, Door Kickers will be coming up in another couple months too.
There you go. There you go.
And so Downcast, you probably won't have to letter for until I don't know a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, we're still waiting on. That's the thing is I've done some that are like, here's 5 pages and here's 5 more and here's 5 more. And that's okay. But I would prefer to I like to get into what I'm working on. So if I'm doing the whole book at once, I feel more comfortable doing that.
Okay.
But I can work in batches. It's fine. I just like doing let's get through it. Let's power through this book. And really just focus on this one and then on to the next one. So each one isn't, I'm not juggling.
Yeah.
I'm going to be juggling in May, but I mean, I juggled Jawbreakers and Graveyard Shift because they hit at the same time. But that was like 70 pages I did over a weekend. So
this is really good to know. So for me, I would have thought, oh, I'll just send you pages as they're done. But it for me as a writer and as the publisher of this thing, it doesn't really make a difference because it's not like I can send it to print 5 pages at a time.
Right, exactly. I mean, you got to wait for it to be done and then pieced together and pre-pressed and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was saying on Twitter the best part about this job is I get to read all the books first, and I get to read them before you guys do. I put the letters on and I read the page, and I'm like, all right, and then I send it to you for approval.
Right.
So
no wonder it's so frustrating only doing 5 pages at a time. Then
that's what's happening next. Yeah. Sometimes you get the full script and you only get art a few pages at a time. Sometimes you just get the script for those pages. I mean, everybody has their own way. I'm sure eventually I'll get to the point where I'm like, these are my standards. I want my green M&Ms and my Perrier and all of that. So sorry, I'm rambling.
There is I'm going to look at chat here real quick. Isidol Dwindle says, I hope the YouTube gets itself together. That's months of missed revenue. If not, contact Google. Yeah, and the truth, I have no idea how much money. I guess I could go look that up on Social Blade. I'm not talking about a ton of money. The YouTube getting paid something would be nice, but honestly, the main part of it is that crowdfunding campaign, and it's the YouTube has done its job. So, yeah, that's the number one thing. But getting paid would also be nice. And then here's a great question: does Eric do the crazy sound effects? Or is that someone else's job?
Nope, that's me. That's a letterer that does that.
Yep.
And those are done a multitude of different ways. I'm going to be doing some videos on lettering, simple stuff. I figure there are people out there that want to do it themselves. And I say more power to you trying to learn it. But I mean, there's enough books out there that need lettered that I've got plenty. Yeah. I'm not saying I don't need any more. I mean, eventually series end and creators move on to other things. But I think it would be good, sort of give back. Like, this is a simple. There weren't a lot of resources. Like, how do you make a word balloon look proper in Illustrator? Those small things. If people want them, then I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's not a plain circle.
It's not a plain circle.
It bothers the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Talking about those, like, so right here on my campaign page, this Karash right here, that was Eric. So that's something that he added. And I'm always fascinated with like the color choice and everything like that. I don't ask questions. Coloring is, it's a whole other thing. So, but it looks good. And then I did want to show, like, even stuff like this stop, where it's kind of bursting out of the balloon. What would be a fun episode sometime, Eric? I want to get you on, and we could call it why your lettering sucks. And I will show you some like smaller books that I've done where I did the art too, and it was like just me kind of learning, and I lettered it, and I know, like, looking back, the lettering sucks for so many reasons. But have you just roast it the whole thing?
I've honestly wanted to do that, but I'm glad you said that, because I want to do something like that, but I don't just want to rip on somebody just to rip on, like, look how crappy this guy's,
Yeah.
I've thought about maybe doing it with my old stuff, but then it's just my work, and it's just like, look at how I've improved, which is good, okay. Right? It's always been perfect, is what. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it would be better for me to look at somebody else's and say, if you did this here, if you did that there, then you'd be singing. It'd be perfect.
Do mine. You have to overlook though that the art is terrible too. So there's that. But you got to get the crappy ones out. That's how you learn. But I'm totally open. Like, I want you to roast me, because again, this is a pet peeve for me, is when there's bad lettering, especially when the art is so good, and then the lettering, that most likely it was the writer thinking, oh, I can save a little bit of money by lettering it myself. It's such a bad idea, because you're going to make more money if you just hire a letterer that does a good job.
Yeah.
This may be a little more work, but I mean, if you could actually talk too about like, hey, the writer and the artist have got to get on the same page, because then the letterer is like, okay, writer, you have this, you've got this text that you're going to put in here, but that your artist clearly screwed you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, those conversations happen. Even with Graveyard Shift, because John is very hands-on. I've had it very, here's the script, go and send it to me when you're done. And then with like John Malin, he's, he wants it to look exactly how he wants it to look. And there were times, because these pages were 2 years old, and there were times where I don't know if the dialogue had been written when it was drawn. It's one of the, I don't know if it was Marvel method or not, but it was clearly like, I'm like, dude, there's no room for all this dialogue here. So me and John and Mark Polton would sit in a hangout, and we'd toss around, well, what if they said it this way? Well, what if we, move this balloon here, and we'll change who talks first. So there's a lot that happens when you're in that mode. That's why I like working with John, is because I can just on the fly be like, okay, I tried to, I'll be like, as you can see, there's not enough room for this balloon. Here's an alternate that I made, and we'll run it by Mark and say, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So it helps. Yeah. It helps to have a collaboration. I think ultimately, as long as everybody's working together, all the way down to, the lonely letterer, then it makes for a better end product. And ultimately, that's what we've got. We're trying to give people the best that we can do.
Yeah. I did want to point out some of the lettering things that they ask about the sound effects, I guess. Mm-hmm. I was in the script, I put SFX in all caps and then say what I wanted to say. And so this up here, the bang, 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 Nacho actually did this, because the way that I wrote it, it took up an entire panel. Like the idea is that's taking all the attention, this loud gunshots, so he did that. This just as easily could have been blank, and Eric could have done it. I'm sure it would have looked different. Guarantee you it will look different. But with this, then I also had the window breaking, and because there was so much art of window breaking, Nacho didn't do anything here. But there you go. There's the crash. So you actually have different sound effects from two different people, and you'll notice there's no dialogue at all on this whole page. And so far, this is my favorite page. I love it. But yeah, it's telling you the story without any words. I did also wanted to point out too, here's some dialogue. This is probably the most dialogue heavy of a scene that I have. And I tried to keep it pretty tight on the dialogue, but I did add, where is it? We're collaborating. Here we go. I wanted, for the writers out there, you'll know, like if you're writing and you want to have a beat where you just want there to be a pause, and in comics, you can do that a few different ways. In this case, like Nacho didn't draw an extra panel for a beat where they're thinking, they're pausing. And so I asked Eric if we could do a ... and that'll come up in comics. It was just kind of cool to have a little bit of back and forth. I don't think doesn't sound like I'm as hands-on as John Malin is.
No.
He wants the lettering, but I did have a few, like this was one. And then I think the other things, like this tail right here going off.
Yeah, because I was on the previous page, he was already below, and in my mind he was still below. Yeah. So that's why you run it past the artist or the writer and say, hey, how's this look? And they say, oh, you know what, because sometimes you get in it and you just put the wrong tail to the wrong person. You know, it's supposed to be, oh, well, this is supposed to be there. And in some cases, the script, character, like this is easy. Their names are easy to know who's who. But sometimes you get like a fantasy book and it's like, okay, who's this guy again? Because they can be maybe too similar or whatever. So.
Hey, we all kind of grew up on the same books. Like for me, it was like the Claremont X-Men run, Hama, G.I. Joe, that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that especially when I started coming back to writing Door Kickers, I really wanted the ability to internalize thought. And so thought balloons, right? That was the thing back in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s,
Yeah.
thought balloons. But now nobody does thought balloons anymore. And the only time you do them are as caps.
Yeah.
And then even then it's way more limited and it's much more, it's different now, you know. Caps was narration back in the day. Thought balloon was internal monologue, dialogue, whatever. And you know, so
Yeah.
what's your guys' thought on the disappearance of the thought balloon?
I hate thought from a writer's perspective. I'll just tell you, I hate having thoughts. Like I like doing caption boxes, but especially
But
from
it's the same thing though. It's
but
literally the same words. One's in a thought balloon, the other's in a square box.
well, it can be, but it's kind of to me it's meant for exposition to happen. If you've got the thought balloon, something that I like about captions is they're not so in your face. I guess they're more subtle, and it's almost a part of like either a narration or something that's happening in the scene before. Because I love to do that in my writing, where you have something showing up on the page and then there's a caption and it doesn't make any sense with what's going on the page, but it encourages you to turn the page, and then now it's bleeding into the dialogue on the next page. Whereas for thought balloons, you can't do that. You could certainly do both. It's honestly, it's just my own personal preference. I don't like thought balloons, but I don't know.
People. Yeah, Jason Black had it right. People stop thinking. Yeah, that's why we're in the situation we're in today.
Well, I think from a visual standpoint, the caption shows more artwork behind it than the thought balloon does. Because
I think you're right.
With the tail of the circle, the circles coming down, and you know the cloud looking border, it blocks so much of the artwork. And I think maybe one of the reasons, now I haven't really looked into why, but I'm sure there's some research out there. But I think one of the reasons is one of many reasons. One, I've obviously expediency, because in Illustrator, that's what I use as Adobe Illustrator. It's just a rectangle. Throw a gradient on it if you want a gradient. If not, just pick a neutral color and you're done. Border, not border, whatever. When it's a thought balloon, you can pre-make them and have a template and just shape them that way. But there's more time that goes into it. So it may, production-wise, it may be because we've got to get through this. Let's just make it captions. Let's show more of the artwork because, hey, you know, this is some great stuff. There's probably a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I personally don't like. I'm with Clint. I don't love thought balloons, but I put them in if it calls for it, if it's asked for, and sometimes I put them in as captions too. And you don't hear, like in Asami. I put them in as captions, and Steven didn't flinch. So it's just so ingrained now that thoughts are caption. And even like in Jawbreakers, that's how I did it. But it was written, Richard had written it as captions. So when you first see the powers of I'm losing his name, the main guy of the team. I'm losing his, but he's like, they're falling and he's like doing all that telekinetic, making the wings and making the parachutes and all that.
Silkworm?
Silkworm, that's it. So the narration changes and you just change the color of the box, and it's okay. Now this is different than the caption, which was yellow, or the narration. The caption, which was yellow with a little white or the little red underlying box underneath it, and then the narration is separate from so there's a whole lot that goes into it. But I just think expediency and showing as much artwork as you can are two big reasons why we don't have thought balloons anymore.
I mean, I fully accept that it's the time has kind of passed on them, but that being said, there's not a clean way to do it. In the Door Kickers comic that you can get for free by signing up to my mailing list, I have essentially it's a bookended conversation where the entire story in the middle takes place in the past and they're talking about it, kind of the present. Mm-hmm. And so there are kind of competing versions of the story in caps. So, that really worked out really well. But, I got back to thinking. I was like, there's a lot of times though when I see a Cap more as like a third person omniscient kind of point of view. You know, if you're thinking about like equating it to like prose fiction versus you know like a first person kind of like this is where I'm at. Unless the entire story goes, you know, first person, and then it's all in the voice of the character that you're focusing on. So it's just kind of like. I think it limits, and I thought that there's a whimsical, you know, I think comics got serious in the 90s, like how they were telling their stories. And I think there's just a whimsical something about thought balloons that, in a way, I mean, you know, there's nothing whimsical about the stories I'm trying to tell, but, you know, it's just something that's missing now, I think, that just wasn't there when I was a kid. And oh, by the way, Eric, you're in your mid 30s, early 30s. Is that right?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
See, that's the problem with both of you. You guys just don't know. You didn't grow up on those good early 80s, late 70s comics.
I read some 80s comics.
Yeah, but you're reading them after you know after the fact.
Been ingrained with caption boxes.
Yeah,
balloons.
Man, I love caption boxes so much. But I do have to jump over to Professor Geek's stream. I would encourage everyone watching, come join us over there. But Slick Rick asks if Eric has a YouTube channel. Eric absolutely does have a YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/Eric Weathers.
Eric Weathers. There you go.
I don't have a wrench, so I can't post the link. I'm just saying.
Oh, sorry. I can fix that. I will fix that. Yeah, Eric Weathers. Look him up on YouTube. Subscribe. He's got a great channel. And I'm going to have you back and have you roast my lettering. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I would love to.
Yeah, and then Shinobi Raccoon says, if it's a small thought, I'd say use them. So small thought balloon, use them. But if it's a long analysis of the situation, maybe write it as a monologue. I try not. I just love captions. I always use captions. And that's it. Slick Rick subscribed, so that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Everybody, don't forget to leave a like and check out Downcast. We're kind of in the middle of the campaign, and so any little boost is great. And yeah, I'll see you guys over at Professor Geek's stream, and we'll continue the fun there. So thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks.